I'm Aromatidis, a PhD student at the University of Cyprus, and I will present you some aspects of womanhood through the funerary sculpture in Lusignan Cyprus. In a kingdom where ethnic identities and social hierarchy were understood in terms of religious affiliation, the Frankish nobles were conscious of their social superiority. This situation changed over the centuries when the upper social class accepted within its rank other ambitious social components. Churches can be perceived as spaces for creating and maintaining social cohesion, connecting the groups of people spread around a common urban landscape. The ground of the Latin churches on Lusignan Cyprus was the final resting place of the privileged of this society, where different ethnic groups continue their post-mortem dialogue. Cypriot burial slabs represent the commemorated individual as dead, even if they were not intended to be a portrayal of the deceased's body. In these slabs, women are socially identified as daughters, maidens, wives, mothers, widows, and nuns. These social roles are in compliance with the dominant medieval model according to which the primary social role of a woman was identified by her biological sex and her legal and financial status derived from her affiliation with a man within her family network. It is through female burial slabs that is registered the lineage, as women are identified not only by their spousal status, but also by their birth. Even nuns remained embedded in their family names, since their natal surname socially identified them. Sex is corporeal, but the gender is socially constructed. We can claim the same for childhood. The chronological, the biological, and the social ages, where the later can be punctuated by rites of passage. Age is given indirectly on the slabs, either through the reference of the deceased's marital, social, professional status, or through the relationship the deceased had with other dead persons mentioned on the same slab. Concerning the children, the tombstones do not offer any information about their age. What is indicative of age in their case is mainly the inscriptional record demonstrating them as children of a specific adult person, the pictorial size of these figures, and the place reserved for them on the slab. Their sex is derived either by their inscribed name or by their dressed appearance. Biologically adolescent girls presented on the slabs, bearing their socially constructed identities as maidens and unmarried women expected to be married. This is given to the viewer either with aesthetic values or through the inscriptions. The virginal hairstyle as presented on certain slabs can be found on memorials of married women, spinsters, and young girls, making it difficult for us to conclude the marital status or age of the engraved persons. What may be considered as a more stable ground about females in such an adornment is that these were women's hairstyles of high quality and that their bearers came from families of elevated social status. The marriage did occur after the girl's coming of age, status between 12 and 16 years old, according to the legal regulations of various societies. That was certainly not the norm, with marriage being very much a part of the biological adult life, except for the nobility, where there was an urgent need as the marriage be arranged as quickly as possible after the girl's coming of age. It was at this threshold when girls were learning how to become women, following already established patterns of moral behavior. Cypriot noblewomen could marry when they attained the legal age of 12, while burgess women at the age of 13. For most medieval young women, physical adulthood did not equate to social adulthood. In Cyprus, there are instances similar to medieval England, where the period of youth before the achievement of full social adulthood may have extended well past physical adolescence, and the age of 25 years is often the cutoff point. These women who identified as wives of a squire were younger women when they died from other deceased women of the same rank who had married men entitled as chevaliers, meaning knights. Through the inscriptions, we observe an internal, vertical hierarchy in the Cypriot nobility, with references as presenting women belonged to the royal house or the most important noble houses and or prestigious but not ennobled families. In some instances, the term noble is missing, but the high status of the deceased woman is demonstrated by the man's noble status through whom she is socially identified. The nuns indicative of their age is the reference on the titles that accompanied them during their lifetime. The dead had no existence other than that which the living imagined for them. This existence was a gendered one. A Lusignan Cypriot society adopts as models of remembrance those aspects of femininity who equated with the notion of chastity and intimacy. Virgin, nun, faithful wife, mother, or even a close friend. Nevertheless, talking about the death, we must not forget birth. There are two extraordinary slabs in our symbol with complex iconography and meanings that reflect issues such as fertility, motherhood, death, ethnic identity. On them, the naked body is confronted with the sartorial body in terms of pregnancy, birth, and family's continuity. The naked body of a dead human in childbirth is on display, exposing maternity's premise of life with the threat of death. The inscribed body's borders bring together the interior to the exterior, the child with its meaning for life, and the mother who embodies an aesthetic of loss of bodily integrity and purity. In this slab, we see theatricality combined with powerful symbolic perceptions about a human's nature. Her bodily integrity has been violated. Her baby, as strategically designed in the abdominal area, displayed to the viewers. Her asexualized nudity is as there is not any depiction of the breasts or the female genitalia. Her interiority conceals her body, as it is the baby that ensures that the commemorated person retains both her femininity and the appropriate degree of modesty. At the same time, this image could pose a double threat to male viewers: the fear that the lineage cannot ever be reproduced, and a reminder of their own origins, and ongoing anxiety about their own deaths. By that very speaking slab, we can pass to the other tombstone, which presents a different kind of motherhood that embraces love, care, and companionship, even in the afterlife. In that slab, the sculptor travels visibly a different kind of boundaries, those of the ethnic identity. This declothed woman could be a map of social experience in everyday life in Lusignan Cyprus. The Greek inscription, a human and a girl, have depicted in this slab. The interest lies not so much in the relationship between these two females, obviously mother and daughter, but in the difference in the posture of their hands. The mother has her arms crossed on chest, which is mainly identified with Greek families, while the daughter is holding her hands in prayers position, that is the Latin manner. Lacking any documentary evidence, but bearing in mind the inscriptions with Greek characters, it is intriguing to see in this slab a picture of members of a family that came from an intermarriage, Roman Catholic father, Orthodox mother, with the child being raised according to father's confession, that is the Roman rite. Here is illuminating the permanent concern of the ecclesiastical authorities of Cyprus. Mixed marriages began to occur between members of the Chalcedonian Christians in the kingdom during the 14th century. The Latin Church decreed that intermarriages between Franks and Greeks should be celebrated according to the Latin rite after the Greek person converted. What concerned the ecclesiastics was to be assured that the offspring of these marriages would be raised according to the Roman Church's teachings. Cases of a conversion from Orthodox to Catholic doctrine were limited to the upper cycles of a Cypriot society. Greeks and Syrians who haven't advanced through the state's bureaucratic mechanism choose to follow Catholicism, a step, however, that is considered discouraging for most of the non-Latin population on the island. Melkites enjoyed the privileged status that obtained in the Crusader states, so as to prominent and wealthy families of Syrian origin succeeded to enter in nobility or to be identified as white Venetians or white Genoese, meaning that they were subjects of Venice and Genoa. Latins considered their equals before the law only those among Greeks and Melkites who adopted the Latin rite and acknowledged Roman primacy. On the borderlands, cultural absorption was incomplete and was often manifested in mixed cultural phenomena such as bilingualism and loosening of religious lines via intermarriage. So, which were these signs on the slabs that could be characterized as ethnic signifiers? The dress was not one of these. Cyprus could be perceived as a marginal region of the Byzantine world. The clothing found in the multi-ethnic micro-societies of the borders, while reflecting other cultures' dress, was not considered ethnic. In Cyprus, people dressed out of desire rather than for tradition. There are three elements on the slabs through which we can point out some ethnic differences: language, chronological system, and aesthetics. European travelers were struck by the multilingualism of Cyprus dwellers, while there is evidence that French was during the 13th and 14th centuries prevailed both among Westerners and those Greeks and Syrians who attained noble status. The funerary inscriptions are Old French, Greek, and Latin. The 15th century Greek chronicler Leontis Makarios claims that Melkites, though being Orthodox Christians like the Greeks, had an equally close association with the Latins. The chronicler's statement seems to be following the funerary evidence, as the majority of Syrians inscribed their slabs in Old French rather than Greek. In Cyprus, as in other European regions, an integral element of tombstones grammar was the invocation of prayer at the end of the inscriptions. On the slabs, human spirit becomes their primary identity sign and is visualized through the gesture of hands in prayer position, the presence of pious accessories such as prayer book or rosary, and the verbal invocation to pray. These iconographic motifs were addressed to those who could see and read them in order to pray for the soul of the deceased. The Greek slabs are dated mainly after the mid-14th century. It was during this last century of the kingdom when it started growing the importance of language as a sign of identity. While Greek operates as the lingua franca of the kingdom, the prayers invocation in Greek or French could not be a strange element to the privileged passers-by who might have read them and pray in favor of the deceased. The inclusion among the inscription of the year and the day of the death operates as an auxiliary tool to the living community to indicate the day of the deceased's remembrance. Indicating the chronological system on the tombstones to refer the date of the death, the inscriptions show how the island's various communities perceived each other in time. From the creation of the world according to the Byzantine computation concerning the Greek female slabs, from the birth of Christ according to the Western Christian world regarded the Latin female slabs. So the burial slabs pay homage to the Byzantine and Latin world simultaneously for each other differences and particularities. Lastly, the aesthetics give us a glimpse of different cultural preferences between Greeks and Latins, as the former slabs are carved out in relief, while those of the later are engraved. A blurring in consciences and beliefs is reflected on the tombstones. This situation provoked by events of high impact to the local reality in the late Lusignan era. A marginal society as Lusignan Cyprus is a production space unique in its kind by permitting its components to interact between them and to create a colorful environment which would seem so strange to the outsiders but so familiar to the insiders. In the formation of a mixed regional identity, women played a fundamental role, as the sources are peculiarly reported only them to visit Greek churches. Cypriot women, particularly in Famagusta, were these societal components that demonstrated religious tolerance. Biologically and sometimes ritually and even ideologically, women could be in charge of the life and death cycle. An aspect of the funerary monument is that they can attack to the enemy of human memory, forgetfulness. We can see the protective arsenal of the funerary monuments on female burial slabs: name, ancestry, day and year of the death, social characteristics of the deceased, prayer in the inscriptions. All those features reveal characteristics of female behavior and the way they desired to be remembered. Greeks adopted a foreign custom in a dynamic way, as they managed to adapt this new reality to their own traditional cultural milieu by introducing in it elements of their Greek identity capable of enduring even in death. What we see imagined is a world society characterized by everything that distinguishes people being present in a single location, a single city, and increasingly even within a single family. Consequently, through the funerary sculpture, as also reflected on female slabs, there was a process of a continuous, dynamic, permissible, acceptable, and mutually respected, reinforced differentiation experienced within a renewed group whose members had shared values and ambitions and interests. Thank you very much for your attention and the beautiful conference. I hope the best for all of you.